Scorpion stretch can be a great stretch to help open up those anterior and spiral fascial lines. But for some of us, it can be a source of back pain. So to make a good exercise better, we're going to go through some prerequisites to set you up for success. You see, the joints of the spine are kind of in this semi-vertical position, and they lock when we go into that full extension. So when we're doing that scorpion exercise, if we have tight erectors or we have tight fascia or tissue on the front, or we just have some kind of smaller vertebrae where there's not as much space through there, we lock into that closed pack position, and then we try to rotate on top of that. That can be very irritating for a lot of people's spines. Even though the rotation, we're trying to direct it through the thoracic spine, but if we go into more of a neutral by using the foam roller to create some space between the belly and the floor, well, we can now engage the core muscles and allow rotation to happen here a little bit more naturally without jamming the joints up. So a few prerequisites that I want to check with my athletes before prescribing this is, can they do this cobra pose without any pinchiness or compression in low back or any pulling in the front? If they get compression in low back as well as some pulling, we might have to start looking at what's going on with the hips as well as the thoracic side. Fine. But if it's more just kind of tightness in the front here, we can just look at our xiphoid lift test. We can see if they have the adequate strength to hold their upper thorax off the ground with that xiphoid lifting off here. If they can do that, then they at least have enough strength, prerequisite strength, to control as they move through that scorpion stretch. But if there is tension on the front, we're just going to get the release ball here and we're going to roam around. We're going to look for tight areas because they often get missed in the abdomen. And they can either do some breathing or they can do some fascial flossing. So we're just going to press into the ball, extend, make it an active stretch. So I'm still contracting all the muscles on the backside, glutes and erectors, so that we can create more space on the front here to allow for better coordination and control on the back. So we're just going to do a few repetitions here to help clear out and just alter some inputs. We'll check again, see if that feels a little bit different, a little less pinchy, and then we're going to go into a variation to help keep the lumbar spine more neutral when we do the scorpion. Then we go back and we check our work, see if that changed anything, see if control feels a little bit better, a little less stretch, a little less compression. And now we're going to go into a variation to help protect and keep that lumbar spine a little more neutral when doing the scorpion stretch. So to modify this, we are just going to use a foam roller to help give us some elevation off the ground so that we're not pressing our athlete's spines into extension and then rotating them, because the lumbar spine doesn't really rotate. So when we keep this neutral spine position and I can press into the ground with my elbows, I now have my serratus activated and I can activate the inner core, and then I can focus this scorpion stretch a little bit more into the thorax here, because I'm actively in this kind of a little bit of a posterior pelvic tilt and a little bit more, not flexion, but say neutral. We can direct some of that rotation to where it needs to go. And it's typically into the thoracic spine is where it needs to go, and a little bit into those fascial lines in and around the hips. So we lock the glutes a little bit, posterior pelvic tilt, push the ground away. So we have this stacked neutral spine, and then perform the scorpion stretch like so. We're also looking at, when we do this, we're looking at scap stability as we move through rotation. And we can get a little bit more reach and a little bit more adduction with the hip simply by stabilizing the spine, just putting it into a more ideal position for a specific athlete. So scorpion stretch, is it good? Is it bad? It depends on your client in front of you. But looking at the anatomy, looking at people's ability to move and their mechanics, but we can always modify exercises that will better suit individual needs.